Yeah. Yeah. It shows you where your breakdowns are and where your log jams are, so that then you can say, okay, I got to put a piece in here to kind of free that up. So what I teach people how to do is to build, scale, and automate a business that creates cash flow that they can invest in other assets that pays them. So, everybody talks about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that book, in 1997. What I got from the book was that. I didn't get real estate. A lot of people got real estate out of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got build businesses that produce cash flow to invest in other assets so that you no longer have to worry about a business, right? So I teach people how to build and scale their business and automate it to the point to where it's generating cash flow so they can invest in other assets, commercial, multifamily, storage units, mobile home parks, whatever it is that you like, that will produce, as much passive income as possible. There is no true passive income. If you own an apartment building, you still got to manage it, or manage the managers. You still got to keep an eye on it, but that's about as passive as it gets. Wholesaling and flipping is transactional. That business is changing as the market changes, and with iBuyers and all that kind of stuff, and everybody getting into the business. It's transactional. It's a lot of work. You and I know to do well and make a lot of money wholesaling. It's a hustle. You got to work hard, but you can scale it. You can automate it. You can get some good people in place. And if you're managing it properly, it doesn't have to be a grind and burn everybody out. It can be a good controllable business, but it's a high volume, fast paced business. And, it's not going to last forever the way it is. That market, that world is going to change, and it is changing, and it's all cycles, right? And, so you want to be investing in other assets, whether it's another type of business or real estate asset that pays you, that you don't need to show up for that thing to keep operating. And the only thing that really fits that bill are commercial multifamily properties.
Could I get your quick philosophy just on what you like as far as asset classes to invest in, multi-unit, storage, self-storage?
I like them all, but different areas are better for different asset classes. So multifamily is great, but it's a very sought after commodity right now. Everybody's going after them. But if you can get a hold of one that makes sense financially, those are great assets to own. I would just make sure that you're in the right kind of asset in the right area where, you've hedged against an economic downturn. I never buy any asset that's commercial and multifamily where I'm relying on having to raise rents. I know the whole value add play out there and everybody's after that. When I look at an asset, I look at it as I'm going to have to lower rents to be competitive. So I make sure that it works financially with me having to reduce lease rates, reduce rent rates, be more competitive, in a downturn. So that's what I look at. I'm a little bit more conservative. When I'm developing ground up, I'm obviously banking on a certain number of metrics, but rents cannot always go up exponentially on commercial and multifamily. You're going to reach a point at some point where enough's enough, people can't pay anymore and won't pay anymore. So they're all great asset classes. They all have their own nuances. They all have their own, advantages and disadvantages. So it's just a matter of where you're at, what you're comfortable with, and what you have access to. So if you're in a small market, you have to broaden your asset base, which is kind of what I've done. I've always been in small markets. So I've had to kind of expand my asset base, which is good. If you're going across the country and that's your thing, then you can be singularly focused on the asset class. So if you want to do just multifamily, you're going to have to go wide geographically. But if you want to stay focused geographically, then you got to go wide in your asset base. And that's me. I never wanted to go all over the country. I like to invest in my own backyard. I'm in a region that I can drive to everything in the Southeast, from North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, up into Northern Virginia, DC area. I kind of focus in those areas. I'm in the car. I can get to everywhere I'm going and back home at the end of the day. So that's just the way I'm wired. It's the way I've kind of always been. And there's plenty of opportunity, for me in those areas. So, but I know there's people that like to fly all over the country and look at multifamily properties and commercial properties. And, that's great. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It kind of just goes to personality, how you're wired, and what makes sense, what feels good to you. Yep. Analyzing numbers and doing your due diligence. Where are you located again, Greg?
I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I'm just outside of DC.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I'm in Baltimore, but I drive right through there, visiting family in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah. So, I was on the Outer Banks for a number of years, developing there. And then I'm from Virginia Beach. So, my network is from really a lot of Raleigh, Cary. I have a lot of contacts in the North Carolina area that come to the Outer Banks. That's where I met and, developed all my relationships over the years, all the way up into Northern Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, so I've got a lot of relationships and contacts in those markets as well. If you're owning, yeah. If you're wholesaling, then that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can do that from anywhere. But yeah, if you're going to own something, especially commercial and multifamily, to me, I like to be near it.